5pmnation.com.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good morning, and welcome to All Natural Being. I'm Brian, fired up for the Friday version of hanging out with you for the full hour. Also, I should mention quickly, 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Already getting some texts in. Thank you very much. Good morning to you as well. Also, yes, I am pretty fired up about today's show. So thank you so much for giving me an hour of your day, whether you're listening now, live, 11 a.m. Eastern, or you're listening later today, 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the rebroadcasts, or you're listening on iTunes. Thank you very much. It truly is an honor to be able to spend an hour with you. And my motif each time is simply to remind you of who you already are. So there are a couple things that I want to get to. I got some great stories from the web. But this was the thing that caught me. I saw one yesterday, and then again this morning early when I was out. I saw this particular sign in a door leading into a retail establishment. And I've seen somewhat different versions on the web, but this is the first time that it was lifelike. It was huge. It was a huge sign, right? You go to open the door, and it's, I don't know, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet. Something like that. It really grabs your attention, and it was done in that yellow and black, almost like caution tape. When you see that, it was yellow and black, the way they just kind of cut into each other, and you go, "Oh, wait a minute, what's going on with that?" And as I'm walking in, I see it, and it kind of stops me in the tracks. And the sign reads, "Look before you leave," and it's got a picture of what looks to be an adult moving away. And it looks like there's a child in a child seat in a car. And the sign says, "Look before you leave. Please make sure children are not left unattended in vehicles." Now, the only reason I bring up this sign is I have no intent to slam anybody. I have no intent to cause attention to or bring attention to anyone that may have been involved in a situation like this. This is not a commentary on guilt or innocence or how could you or the like. But when you hear these stories in the news where parents just forget and they end up leaving little kids, infants, in the cars. You hear about them a couple, maybe one every 2 or 3 months, hopefully not more often than that, but we hear about them in the news. And my first inclination is, wow, how could you do that? Now, I'm suggesting that in a huge majority of these cases, the parents didn't feloniously, with intent, with the culpability, the mens rea, to use a legal term, the mens rea, the culpability of injuring their child in any way. They get caught up in their day, too preoccupied with everything going on around them, really just caught up in the craziness of their schedule, I'm assuming. But you're so preoccupied. You're so focused on something other than where you are in the moment that you walk away and leave your child in the car, hot or otherwise. I wouldn't want to leave a child in the car and walk away from it with just the way the world is. You hear all the time about people being carjacked. They get in and the bad guy drives away with the kids in the back seat, or the bad girl. I don't want to be sexist. Bad guy, bad girl, back seat, kids drive away. Now it's a carjacking and an abduction, kidnapping, if they know that the kids are in the car. So this sign really just stopped me in my tracks, and it turns your heart upside down. Yes, you get to the point where you think, oh man, what if I ever did that with my kids? But again, that's not what the focus is. What I wanted to ask is, just how caught up in the crazy can we get? Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you don't have a car. But still, the question remains, was something as important as leaving an infant tied in a car, secured in a car seat, heat or not, how focused somewhere other than in the now do we have to be before we finally just sit up and realize, and we go, wait a minute. You ever do it? I'm guilty of it. You ever get behind the wheel of a car and you're driving, you think about something, you get to where you're going, you go, well, I know I got here because I've always done it this way, but good golly, I couldn't tell you anything that happened the last 5 minutes, right? Your mind's just somewhere else. You have examples of those in your life? How out of touch, we hear the term out of touch, how out of touch would we really have to be to have a sign on the door of an establishment that reminds us, oh, yeah, let me see, I got my sunglasses on my head, I got my keys in my hand. Oh, that's right, I brought 2 infants with me. I left them in the backseat of the car. How out of touch, how out of sync with our surroundings do we really have to be? My heart goes out to the people that have been involved in situations like that. And again, I believe 99% of the time, we're just unaware of what's going on around us. Maybe we're so into a groove, we're so into doing it the same way, habitually, blindly doing it the same way, we don't even see the signs. But the other day I was driving somewhere, it was kind of a hot day, a sunny day, so there's a construction worker, and he's sitting under a tree, but he's blocked in such a way that I didn't even see him sitting under the tree till he jumped up, ran out into the intersection with his stop sign, kind of like so that he would tell you oncoming traffic's coming the other way. And for a moment I looked at it and I wasn't sure what I was seeing, because I saw the guy run instead of standing there, with the slow sign up. All he's going to do is run, dart out, and put up the stop sign. And for a moment, even though my eyes saw the sign stop, it didn't register quite what was going on. So maybe you and I get so carried away with the bat crap crazy in our lives. Hectic. Too much to do. Everything going on. That we forget some of the most important things to us, some of the things we cherish the most. So I want to call that your attention to that sign. And maybe it's a way we can use it as a wake-up call for all kinds of things in our lives. But when I saw that sign yesterday and again today, I'm like, all right, there's 2 times. It's time for me to mention it in the show. All right, so again, it's Friday. Now that we're kind of like doing a little doom and gloom about how we become so preoccupied that we don't really see what's going on right under our noses, it's still Friday, so I want to have a little bit of fun today. I want to let the chips fall where they may. So thank you for all the texts. Again, don't forget 331 684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Send me a text. I'll text you back, or we'll at least comment on what's going on in the show, because I'd like to incorporate how you feel, what you're thinking, what you like and what you don't like into the show itself. So today, here's what I thought I would do. I got a lot of conversation, friends of mine, phone calls, emails, talking about my concept yesterday of Garden of the Mortals, or the labyrinth of life that you hear me talk about all the time. So I thought, and I think we did this very early on, back in the opening few episodes of the show. And then I also wanted, I got to mark this down. We're going to talk a little bit about demystifying mindfulness. Let me just type this in so I don't forget, because I had a phone conversation with another friend that I wanted to share with you. All right, so let's do this. Way back when we talked about thought experiments and how they worked great for Einstein. Einstein said imagination was more important than knowledge, right? That was one of his favorite quotes. And if not his favorite, then one of his most famous. Imagination is more important than knowledge. So I'd like to share with you the thought game, the imaginational process that I go through. And I want to share it with you. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to adopt this as 100% true. It's a thought experiment. If it works for you, groovy. If it doesn't work for you, we'll try a different thought experiment. But I thought I would share with you the one that I use every single day. Since the day I thought of it, this is the one that I use. All right, so I'd like you to imagine, just for a moment, that prior to your birth, and I mean against truly unimaginable odds that any of us is here. Just even for a moment, if you don't want to think about how unimaginable it is that you, of all beings, you, of all human beings, you, of all unique combinations of genetic material are here, just think about the chances that our planet is here, the chances that our solar system is here, the chances even that anything survived in the universe. And then bring it back a little closer to home. That your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather decided to hook up with your great-great-great-great-grandmother, and all the family tree, all the lineage that had to go down since that point for you to be here. I want you to imagine that just prior to getting here, you learn you're in the running for a human consciousness, a human body. You're on the short list. But the offer comes with a couple of strings attached. There's some fine print, and Providence moves to explain the details of the non-negotiable deal right up front. It's the cost of the ticket to board the ride that brings you to life. Now, the terms and conditions are straightforward and clear. The price for the overall opportunity of a lifetime is the all-in, wholehearted acceptance of your personal destiny. Should you be awarded an individual-sized packet of the universe's overall energy, you pledge a tour de force life. You're pulling out all the stops. You promise to vigorously and passionately apply all of your authentic vitality, your natural resources, and to fully optimize your time on Earth. That you'll live with unbridled vision. That's the gig you're being offered. No apathy, no procrastination allowed. Now, there's also a warning that comes with this. On your final day, you will be held accountable for your overall energy expenditure. This deal isn't about administrating conservation, but for courageousness applied. So you commit to surrender yourself to death fully spent, 100% toast, a skin bag just void of any natural resources. Your mental and physical reserves completely depleted, having burned through every bit of the brilliance, the strength, the nerve, the resilience encoded in you at the outset of your journey. Now, if you decide to jump in, you better go all out. There is no room for mediocrity. You swear to live life to the hilt or step aside. Get out of the way. We'll call the next being in line. You go, well, I don't want to step aside, so I'm going to take the divine up on its offer. The divine, however you define it, I'm going to take the divine up on its offer. You go, I'm in. I'm your guy. I'm your girl. I'm your whatever. I'm the one. And it's genetically programmed into your DNA. That very offer is just etched into you. So you vow to live fully and leave empty. And Subsequently, you have a contract with your creator. However you define the divine, however you view the creator, you just agreed. You got a verbal contract. And the adventure begins the moment you accept that obligation. So technically, there's an outstanding invoice on your head, and there's only one way to pay it off. You depart. Your destination is the garden of the mortals, and you depart as the guardian of your own grit. Your awesome is built in. Your bold is already hardwired. And you have the potential to pull off almost anything. You have the temperament, the resilience, the tools to fulfill your destiny, as unique as it is. Now, fight as it may and it will, that's its job. Fate, we talk about fate all the time. Fate has other plans. Even so, you cannot be derailed, huff and puff, as it might. Fate cannot void your destiny without your express permission. Which means that there are really only two types of people in the world. Those that keep the promise and those that take a pass. Those that adhere to the original conditions of the adventure and those that decide, you know what, I'm here, I'm just going to acquiesce to fate. I'm going to cave. It's a dangerous game to be playing. Because I think the universe holds grudges. And it's got a lifelong memory. You took an oath to be impeccably human. You took an oath to be a superhuman, a metahuman. You took an oath to bring your A game to life while you're here. And that oath is indelibly etched in your soul. And I think your dreams are nothing more than the echo of the initial deal that you made. So now we seal that deal or we go home broken. You made a pact with a higher power, however you define it. Are you living up to that promise? You entered a bargain. God delivered. The only question you're going to answer is, did you? So for me, every day when I talk about manifesting a destiny, when I talk about you're here for a purpose, that's what I use. That thought experiment, imagining for a moment that I truly did broker a deal. It's the cost of the ticket to get here. That's why I put up this morning is one of our 2 anaerobic aphorisms for today. If you decide to spend this life with your soul on the sidelines, you've already sold out. Punishment's going to be what it's going to be in this life and the next. You weren't put here to be pushed around. So you got to ask yourself, what gives? If you're not happy, if you don't feel successful, fulfilled spiritually, personally, athletically, entrepreneurially, what gives? You weren't put here for a compromised deal. You weren't put here to settle. None of us were. So again, as a part of the anaerobic aphorism for today, what gives? What happened? You made a deal. Is it truly your decision, your goal, to go home broken? Only you know. But there will come a time where you're going to be forced to ask yourself the question, was I me? Was I me? Did I live my life to the fullest? Did I throw myself into the garden of the mortals with no excuses, no apathy, no anxiety, but just the need to run the board? You and I weren't put here to be pushed around. When did it become fashionable to be feeble? To feel as if the opinions, the insults of another truly have the ability to derail you and I. That's what I love about hanging out 5 times a week for All Natural Being. I get to be, as we've talked before, that person, that partner, that tag team partner that simply helps remind you who you already are. And we've got some really cool stories this morning that tend to speak to that. And I'll share them here with you in just a bit. But I also want to share one other story with you. We're looking at opening a center in a city where I live, Aurora, or nearby. And we're contemplating a mindfulness and contemplative prayer center. And I was speaking to a friend the other day, and he says, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And I said, okay. May I ask why? And he goes, well, it doesn't mesh, doesn't dovetail with my sense of spirituality. And I go, how so? He says, well, you know, because I'm a Christian, mindfulness, it's not Christian. It's not Christian enough for me. And I sat for a minute and I thought, I get that. I see with some of the things that people have said in the past, which is why I love the concept of elite mindfulness, where we get to experience all the benefits, none of the BS. Because true mindfulness, true meditation, true contemplative prayer has nothing to do with picking one sense of spirituality or one religion over another. Again, the ancient Latin. Religiare, to bind together. When you bind together with your definition, your personal definition of the divine, that's both religion in its original definition, and it's most certainly the definition of meditation. So we don't need to say, oh, I'd like to do meditation, I'd like to focus on mindfulness. Believe me, I think 98% of it is mashugana. I think 98% of it is bat crap crazy. I mean, not as bad as these mindfulness apps. I mean, who am I to simply call to attention that Luminosity got in trouble because they couldn't prove everything that they were saying? Other companies, you know, you figure out who's in the whole headspace of it, right? Saying, oh, get this app. It'll do all these fantastic things. I don't think you need an app. I think you need an attitude. And that attitude is that when you remember who you are, when you're connected to the divine, that's what counts. Mindfulness is simply remembering who you are before all the bat crap crazy seeped in to your awareness. And I said to my friend, well, I'm sorry that you won't be able to come. He says, well, you know, I look at prayer as asking God for something. And just me, and you watch, we'll lose another 1,000 friends and associates here on Facebook today. I never ask God for anything. My definition of the divine, which is my business, not yours, much the same as yours is your business, not mine. My definition of the divine, I'm too busy saying thank you to ever treat him like an ATM. Or her. Don't want to tip my hand. I'm too busy saying thank you to have conjured up a laundry list of things that I still want. I'm not looking the gift horse in the mouth. I'm not treating the divine like a cosmic short order cook. Oh, can I have a side order of bacon, some hash browns, easy butter? Yeah, right. So we're all supposed to want our luck. We want that sugar-coated. Isn't that good enough that we were dropped here in the garden of the mortals itself? Not good enough for that. We have to constantly be begging because we want more in our lives. We got more carrots, got to have them. So we walk up, treat God like an ATM, punch in some puny little PIN number, and then wait for all the cash to spit out. Mindfulness has everything to do with remembering who you already are. Meditation, everything to do with who you already are. Contemplative prayer, contemplating who you already are. And when you nail it, the last thing on your list is to ask for anything else. That sense of gratitude, the grease of the human mind is such. Hey, you got too much going on to be asking for anything more. That sense of gratitude, that sense of thankfulness. So if you're ever out and you say, oh, I'd be interested in a mindfulness program, thank you very much. By the way, I should keep mentioning 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Appreciate the texts. When we remember who we already are, we don't have to worry about pigeonholing ourselves. So if you're contemplating a mindfulness class, if you're contemplating a meditation class, don't let anyone tell you that it's contrary to your belief in the divine. Because if you believe that you're a child of whatever divine you possess, you, in fact, are a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild of that divine. It's a part of you. You wouldn't be here if it weren't. So when you contemplate that, when you work at remembering who you ultimately are, then all the back-breaking gymnastics, everything else that's going on, you have to worry about torquing your knees or what you're doing with your nostrils or your fingers or any of this other stuff. Just remember who you ultimately are. And when you do that, people go, oh, I can't believe, that when you talk about all providence moves too. Well, of course the universe does. It recognizes the kindred as I recognize the kindred in you, which is why I say, hopefully every day, I'm on your side even when you're not. Yeah, we all have a little bit of amnesia. We all have a little bit of blind spot here and there that blocks us from remembering who we ultimately are. But when you take the time to reconnect with that genuine, and I mean genuine, I mean authentic, I mean native parts of who you are, that's it. That's enlightenment. Don't let anyone tell you, look, I've been in a cave on a mountain in China. Don't let them tell you need robes or beads or incense. I got them all. Don't let them tell you need gongs. I love my gong. Got one right here. It's great. Don't let them tell you need mindfulness apps, heart rate monitors, all these other things. The definition of enlightenment, very simple, is to remember who you are. So I said, if I ever we're going to write an inspirational book, I'm going to do an inspirational postcard. And that's going to be it. What's my key to success, happiness, and fulfillment in your life? Remember who you are. Not what you've been taught. Not what all the hangers-on. Not with all your entourage. Not with all the co-conspirators of the ego, your estrangement gone overboard, but remember who you ultimately are. Because when you remember who you ultimately are, your natural resources, you're like, wow, where'd I get all these superpowers? When you remember you're a metahuman, that's a part of the deal. When you remember, where are you? You're in the garden of the mortals. Why are you here? To run the table. To work the labyrinth and to fulfill your destiny. We'll be right back.
IPMNation.com.
Thank you very much. I am having a blast today. Don't forget 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Charlie, I don't know if you're listening, if you're out on the road. Hope everything's going great. Lisa, thank you very much. Sue, thank you very much. Everyone's sending me in text this morning. Super appreciate it. Again, don't forget, anything that you want me to think about, anything you want to share, go ahead, 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. I'll go ahead and incorporate it right into the show as best I can. And remember that it's me. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the phone. Here's a message. So I'm trying to type. I'm trying to talk, but I'll incorporate it as soon as I can. So thank you very much. Also, don't forget, head on over to allnaturalbeing.com. Leave me your email. I'll leave you mine. We'll go from there. We can keep connected that way. Also, Brian Brawdy, official, over on Facebook, or at Brian Brawdy at Twitter. We can do that as well. All right, so I wanted to get to a pretty cool article. Well, let's do this one first. Only because it supports the concept of getting in and getting your best back out. It supports the concept of the BEST acronym. Breathe in, exhale, scan the horizon, then think, then talk, then take action. From the Science of Us over the New York Magazine, New York Mag, take a deep breath, or take a deep breath, is advice that works physiologically and psychologically. The big article saying, quote, surprisingly, the spontaneous deep breaths look, had a little bit of a break there. Sorry about that. I could see the signal drop for just a second. Articles talking about when you breathe in and breathe out as deeply as possible. The benefit physically, the way they felt, the way they thought, changed the physiology in their body in that particular moment. According to the article, pretty impressive. First of all, the fact that both consciously breathing and holding your breath is relief-inducing. And it does dovetail with lots of traditional wisdom around breathing exercises, which has been shown to help cancer patients with anxiety and reduce asthmatics' daily use of their inhalers. According to the article, also, the most common summation of mindfulness meditation is that it's attending to both the in and out breath. And that practice has been shown to reduce anxiety in clinical populations. So maybe something similar is happening when we talk about breathe in, exhale. It says, one possible mechanism, paying attention to and regulating your breath is an active, conscious way to communicate with the unconscious parts of yourself that your body is safe. And the article ends by saying, and voila, you relax. How many times before have you and I talked about when we breathe in, exhale, scan the horizon, take action, just the physical nomenclature of that, your body goes, well, wait a minute. She's taking a deep breath. Well, hold on a second. He gave a full lunged exhale. And his eyes are kind of moving around, checking the horizon, his ears, his feelings moving around throughout his body. She's taking the time to think, to tap in, and then take action. The body goes, I'm safe. How much of a threat can actually be going on? What's this whole thing? I just got a text saying, the body, fight or flight. But wait a minute, he's breathing, she's exhaling, right? Everyone's doing it just the right way. What is it I'm getting all worked up about? In this new study in physiology and behavior, researchers gave 34 participants an anxiety assessment and then rigged them up with electrodes to follow their respiration, muscle tension, and other indicators of relaxation, or the absence thereof. According to the article, every participant did 3 different trials. 1 where they didn't receive breathing instruction, and 2 where they did. Either receiving the instruction, do one of the following breaths, breathe in as deeply as possible, or during one of the following breaths, delay your next inspiration for 2 seconds. And then the participants self-reported how much relief they felt 5 seconds before and after their breath. And their physiological anxiety markers were recorded at the same intervals. Spontaneous deep breaths, sighs if you would, were also tracked. So if you and I practice the BEST acronym, we breathe in, exhale fully, Takes a couple seconds to pull that off, doesn't it? So we've built into it this 5 seconds. Then you scan the horizon. And then you think, you talk, you take action. And when we do that, again, to quote the very last sentence of their article, your subconscious parts say, wow, the body's got to be safe. And if you're safe, why all the agitation? Why not just stay in your normal, relaxed state? So again, a 20-second victory, thanks to my friends at New York Magazine. 20-second victory. You want to reduce some anxiety? You want to reconnect to who you ultimately are? 20 seconds. That's all I'm asking for. A third of a minute. You got a few of them throughout the course of a day. Third of a minute. Take a deep breath. Exhale like you mean it. I tell people in some of the classes, you breathe in and then exhale saying your own name. You hear people, oh, I was so scared, I was petrified. I didn't even know who I was. So you can take a deep breath in. Exhale your name. Now, you can exhale your name in your own mind as well. You have to be standing on a street corner doing all this so that everyone's looking at you, unless you can be like me, where you just don't give a crap if anyone looks at you. But you can do this all in your own mind. And when you breathe in, you exhale your own name, you make your eyes, your ears, your senses kind of scan what's going on. There's no tunnel vision. There's nothing to be petrified about. You don't need an app for that. We'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
All right, hijack your head and your heart. Big business now. All these mindfulness apps. Forget the technology is what's making you frantic in the first place. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a pill for that. Oh, feeling a little anxious? You should buy an app. Or you could toss your cell phone in the lake. Right? I love it. What happens to us when we get all caught up? Oh, there's an app for that. Oh, there's a pill for that. There's some medication for that. Well, if we're full of anxiety, what if we take a third of a minute? A third of a minute. I get 60 of them an hour, 24 hours in a day. Third of a minute to breathe in, exhale. Take the time to say your own name, either to yourself or outwardly. And then when you use your senses to scan the horizon, the body goes, why did I get worked up? I'm sorry I even answered the door. This is BS. There's nothing to be worked up about. I'm going back to my natural state of relax. That's what I'm going to do. So don't let them hijack your head and your heart. All right, now, I want to talk about last night. How can you not watch? I mean, the Olympics, right? I just love it. Now I know you're thinking, oh, Olympics like medal winners suggesting that they were robbed, right? No, not that. Well, all the drama around all the different things going on. No. I'm talking about the Olympics, the field of competition down there on the field. And if you watch, as I did last night, Usain Bolt, it's like the guy jogs. Good golly. I watched him in the finals at the 200, and it looked like for the last 30 yards, he was looking back, smiling at the people that were 5 yards behind him. But the reason that I bring that up today is I won't forget what the announcer said. The announcer, right as he crossed the finish line, said this was the race that Usain Bolt was born to win. Born to win. Which, you know me, automatically makes me think of destiny. Well, if it's true, let's just do a thought experiment. Again, stick with me if you don't mind. What if he was born? What if his destiny, what if he accepted it, was to come and win this race? No matter what fate would do. Accident. I mean, didn't a photographer roll into him with a Segway last Olympics? A photographer on a Segway rolls into him. I can't think of of a more comical vision of fate than that. But what if it's true? What if the announcer just wasn't full of baloney? And ultimately, as you know, I'm not so much worried about the Jamaican sprinter. I mean, I'm impressed. God, love him. But what I'm interested in is, what race were you put here to win? What race is tailored just for you? What are you to do while you're here? Because if he's got one, I know you have one. If he's here, and his destiny is to win now over 3 Olympics, back to back to back, both the 100 and the 200, and makes it look easy. I mean, this is his 3rd consecutive gold medal in both the 100 and the 200. He just keeps winning. What if the announcer was right? What if he was put here to win that race? What were you put here? You were dropped off in the garden of the mortals. What were you put here to do? Did you ever think about that? How about if we think about it quickly? What were you put here to do? What are your natural resources? He's like 17 feet tall. He's got a leg span that what's he take, like 7 steps, and he runs 100 yards. Whatever it is, that's his unique genetic makeup. What I want to focus on is yours. What's your unique genetic makeup? What's the race you're here to win? Now, it may not be an athletic race. I'm not talking about it. Could be anything. Could be anything. In terms of using your body to complete the piece of art that is you in your own unique labyrinth. The marriage of those two things. What are you here to do? If he's here with one, you're here with the same thing. Now you could say, oh, I could never be as good as him. You don't know that. Maybe not. Maybe, yeah, at my age, I'm not going to get up and run a 100-yard dash faster than he does. But that doesn't mean you can't be as good as he is at taking the natural resources, his unique natural resources, his unique genetic makeup, and bringing them to the labyrinth, bringing them to this moment in all of time, sensing the fingerprints of providence and exactly what you're going to do with them in this moment in all of time. The next 20-second victory. What are you going to do? What race were you put here to win? All you got to do is look at someone like Mr. Bolt. And I think that's why people are so enamored with great athletes and celebrity of any kind. Because it's a subconscious recognition that they possess the same thing that we do, and we're just fired up for them, even if we're not so fired up for ourselves. You weren't put here to be pushed around. You weren't put here to take 2nd place, 3rd place, whatever place you want, other than 1st place. You were put here, if you'll excuse it, you were put here to win the gold medal. A gold medal in the unique application of your authentic natural resources in this particular moment in all of time. That makes you an Olympian. Here in the garden of the mortals, in the labyrinth of life. So when we talk about, we're looking for work-life balance. We're looking for happiness, fulfillment, and success. What if that balance comes 20 seconds at a time? Where we take a deep breath, use our lungs the way they were intended, and then bring our natural resources to bear in this particular instant in all of time. We'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because it's never too late to take your life back.
It is never too late. You and I both know it. Let's stop acting like we don't. Let's get off the couch and get into the labyrinth. Let's go. I like to think of walking up to fate and ticking it right under the nose. Tick. People go, oh, you don't do that. It's like no one wants to go on the internet anymore and say anything because everyone's worried of trolls. Trolls. I like to walk right up to fate and go, poke it right in the chest. Go, here we go. Here we go. So, how can you and I specifically do that? What is it that we can do to make certain that when it comes to our run, the Garden of the Mortals, that we're going to be able to pull it off? Found this really interesting article about Marine Corps training. You're thinking, Brian, I'm not going to low crawl through dirt with all that barbed wire going over my head. People firing real live rounds, all the rest of this. I'm not a Marine. But what they found is going to be absolutely beneficial to you and me. So, this article by Mr. Drake Bayer says that a particular general became commandant of the Marine Corps. Highest ranking position within the Marine Corps, 1995. Krulak is the general's name. He decided that the Corps needed to change the way it was training Marines. You know, you go through all this fighting, you go through all this combat, and it's like, wow, that's kind of stressful. So what are you going to do to be able to come out on top? So according to the article, the general was looking for, quote, extreme self-starters. It says in the article, but at the time, recruits coming in lacked any sense of direction or drive. All they knew was doing the bare minimum. It was like working with a bunch of wet socks. And according to the article, Marines can be a lot of things, but they can't be wet socks. So, according, again, to the article, digging into the research, the Marine Corps, all kinds of work later done by psychologists and psychiatrists as well, Krulak discovered an internal locus of control. It was a huge predictor of self-motivation and success. Now, I don't want to go through the entire article because we don't have enough time right now this morning, but if you're interested, just send me a text or an email and I'll go ahead and send you the link to the article. Or for that matter, just it's called Tech Insider. Tech Insider, and the title of the article is Marine Training Says Something Profound About the Psychology of Success. Okay, let's go ahead. Here's what it says. There are people that have an internal locus of control, and those people tend to adopt the belief that it's all on them, that hard work and grit and attitude, and they'll pull it off. And that's what the general was looking for, right? That's what these self-starters are, as opposed to his term, not mine, but the wet socks, that he considered to be the external locus of control, which means you have to worry about everything going on the outside. You got to be lucky, you got to dodge fate, you have to do all these other things. So psychologists, psychiatrists, researchers, there's a great book, Smarter, Faster, Better, The Secrets of Productive Life and Business. And I hope I'm getting it right. Charles Duhigg. It's a great book. But he talks about internal locus. You dictate the course of your life. Or external locus, where you feel as if, my friend Doug this morning says, and I've it's been a favorite saying of mine forever, life doesn't happen to you, you happen to life. You bring it into the paint. You bring your own mold. But for people that have an external locus of control, they think life piles in on them. For the rest of us that think we happen to life, it's an internal locus. So you have this external pushing in, internal pushing out. But I'm here to offer that after 30 years of researching this, I'm here to offer what I call the threshold locus of control. And that's the locus of control in this moment, the mind and the labyrinth, where you are and the circumstances you find yourself in, there's a cusp, there's a border, there's a line in the sand, and that threshold locus of control takes the very best of the internal, the very best of the external, blends them together into this particular moment in all of time. Because if we want to be really truthful, we can say, oh, I have an internal locus of control. I dictate what happens. Till a sniper from 3 miles away puts a 50 caliber round through your chest. Not so much in control then, are you? So I'd say if one time something like that could happen, then you really don't have an internal locus of control. You may believe, you optimistically believe, yes, I can control everything that goes on, but then we know that's not the case. Then you look at the external locus people. You see people. I saw this great commercial last evening about a mountain climber that's lost his arms and his legs. When the commercial first starts, they're focusing on his face. Then they pull out. This guy's climbing a mountain. Badass, bar none attitude. So then you have to say, well, clearly the external locus didn't win. He's got a great internal locus. So now we have a case where internal locus, maybe. External locus, maybe. But the threshold locus of control. How is it that we get to smile like we mean it at every turn? How is it that we no longer have to feel it's fashionable to be feeble? When we have that threshold locus, the very best of your brain, the very best of the circumstances, and by best I mean reality, I mean the truth, I mean not optimism or pessimism, but realism. Realism in this moment, they dovetail together with your mind in this particular instant in all of time. That's the threshold locus of control. That's having your mind meet the circumstances, the mashugana, the bat crap crazy of the moment, and going, I'm in, let's do it, bring it. You know that you can bring, however bizarre the circumstances might be, you can bring your bold, and in this moment, at that threshold, that's the threshold locus of control. So let me just pull up the article again real quick. It says here, with an internal locus, you believe that the events in your life are the result of your actions. Well, we know that's not true. There are just some things that happen to us that we have no control over. It goes on to say, with an external locus of control, you believe that the events in your life are a result of outside forces. And I would say also your ability to rise to the occasion. It says that studies indicate that an interior locus is associated with being less vulnerable to depression, doing better in school, dealing better with stress, finding more active solutions to problems, greater satisfaction with work. So what did the general do? He wanted to give him a bias towards action. That part I absolutely agree with. He says, quote, never tell anyone they're a natural born leader. Natural born means it's outside your control. Instead, we teach them that leadership is learned. It is the product of effort. We push recruits to experience that thrill of taking control, of feeling the rush of being in charge. Once you get them addicted, they're hooked. So now when recruits show up and they're thrown into this 13-week boot camp, what I would call the garden of the mortals for you and me, they're faced with situations where they have to make decisions on the fly. Does that sound familiar? Wink, wink, nod, nod. Anybody home? Lights on, huh? That's the garden of the mortals. When we're thrown, they call it the crucible, the 54-hour obstacle course, the crucible. You and I are in a crucible. It's called life, the labyrinth of life. Article ends by saying that the Marines, since they've incorporated this mindset, retention rates have gone up by 20%. So there is some good in the belief in an internal locus of control. I'm just, as an investigator, constantly searching for what makes the real list. What's the truth? You can't always control what happens to you outside in. You can't always control what happens inside out. But there is a threshold where you can say, I'm confident, I have courage for around the blind corner. I know that no matter what happens, I will rise to the challenge. I will rise to the circumstances. I have a cutting-edge cognition. And no matter what chaos throws at me, I'm in. I bring my own bold. Let the chips fall where they may. Fate has a certain confidence. Well, I have my confidence. So tell fate to bring it. And I call that the threshold locus of control. In the moment, this unique fraction in the great expanse of time where your mind dovetails in this moment, when your head and your heart are in union in this instant, this fleeting instant, that's meditation. That's mindfulness. That's contemplative prayer. That's the definition of confidence, of character, of charisma, of courage, of an all-natural being, of a superhuman, of a metahuman. And it's in you. And you know it is. Just because it may have been a while since you've used it, it may be dormant, but that doesn't make it dead. It is still within you. So, imagining for the weekend, a chance to cook some 20-minute victories. You can throw some things in. What could you do for 20 minutes? Whether they're impromptu, spur of the moment, or that you intend to do them. They're scheduled. Think of a 20-minute where you can go, no, I'm going to focus on my threshold locus of control. I'm going to see whatever fate is throwing at me. I'm going to rally my natural resources, and let's just do it. And I'm absolutely confident, which is why we start. Baby steps. Remember Bill Murray? Baby steps. I'm sailing. They tie him to the mast. Baby steps. NLP would call it chunking, but you get where I'm going with this. 20-minute tap into your all-natural being. It's waiting. It's waiting. Remember, who was it? Horseshack? Remember Welcome Back, Kotter? Wasn't it Welcome Back, Kotter? He'd sit in the back of the room and go, ooh, 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 Mr. Kotter, Mr. Kotter, ooh, 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 ooh. Well, that's kind of like your soul. It's ready to go. Your all-natural being is like, oh, will you just call on me, please? And then go take a little break. Yeah, your inner superhuman's like, today. And all I'm asking is you give yourself 20 minutes to be your own best friend, to be your own biggest fan. What if the announcer last night about Mr. Bolt was correct? This was the race he was born to win. What was the race you were born to win? What was the race you were sent here to win the gold medal in? Physical race, philosophical race, an artistic race. What was it? If you're here, you were sent here for that. There's nothing that special about him other than the fact of his commitment to continually tapping in to his all-natural being, continuing, blending internal and external locus of control into a threshold locus of control right now in this moment, this cutting edge, this razor's edge. And look what it yielded him. And what I'm excited to see is what it's going to yield you. Remember, I'm not here for you. I'm here for your soul. I'm on your side even when you're not. In those times where the amnesias become the greatest, remember that on the inside, the marrow of your mind, you're every bit the badass that Mr. Bolt is. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so much again for giving me an hour of your time. Have a fantastic weekend. Please practice one of these 20-minute victories so that you can rekindle that sense of who you ultimately are. All right, we're going to we're going to get out of here. Love you guys. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
Just have an amazing weekend. Let's hang out on Monday. See you then.
IPMNation.com.